Hi, welcome to this lesson on building layout in Android. In Android, building user interface have never been so easy. In this lesson, we are going to look at the UI components available in Android and how to use them. You don't have to bother about this UI component because they come with Android Studio. Before we start, let's define some regularly used terms in Android layout. First is the view. A view is a rectangular visible portion of the screen. It has a width, height, and other attributes which usually have default values. A view can be represented in various forms, such as the text view, used to display a text, image view, used to display an image on the screen, a button, used to capture a tap event on the screen, and a view group, which is a big view often invisible and contains smaller views such as text views, image view, and button. Let's look at this example to better understand the various types of views. Here we have a screen capture of an application, and here it uses a text view to display this text, an image view for this image, and a button to take an action from the user. That is when the user will tap on the screen to agree and continue. Here is another example which shows an application. This shows the screen capture of an application. See, here we have an image view for the display of this image, a text view to display this image to the user so that he can know what to do, and these two buttons, the get started and the sign in, where we use a button to display these two buttons which will require an action from the user. Next, before we continue, we have to know that in building UI, we are going to use a language called XML. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, and this is a language used to describe UIs in Android. To write our XML code, we are going to use a tool generally referred to as an IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. This is a tool used to write our code. Code is a set of instructions. For Android development, the tool we are going to use is called Android Studio. To better explain, let's take an analogy of mails. To send your mails, you use the tool called Gmail to write and send your mails. So, to write our XML code, we will use a tool called Android Studio. Let's now look at an example of an XML code. This is an example of an XML code to display a text view on the screen. As you can see, it starts with text view. It's pretty easy, simple, and short. Let's now look at what makes an XML code valid. An XML code is valid if it matches the rule of a well-structured XML. These rules are usually referred to as a syntax. And if you don't respect the rules for writing an XML code, an error will show up. This is the code of an XML. This is code of a text view. We start with an open angle bracket. Here, open angle bracket, followed by the text view, followed by the view name, which can be followed by this view name, which can be either text view, image view, button, depending on the view you want to display, and followed by a list of attributes defined one per line, and followed by a forward slash and a closing angle bracket. So we can say that in general, to write an XML code structure in Android Studio, we start with open angle, text the view name, attributes name, one per line, / and a closing angle bracket. If you miss any of these symbols, it may give out an error. So for every XML element, we have to make sure that these are valid. We have to make sure that all these components are present. This particular example make use of a self closing tag to indicate the end. In other cases, we may have different tags for opening and closing of the view element, such as in this example. In this example, here is the closing tag for this text view, and here is the opening tag for this text view. So this is another example which shows a linear layout having two text views. As you can see, in this example, our closing tag for this linear layout is made up of an open angle bracket followed by a / the view name and closing angle bracket. These two text views in the linear layout are referred as children element for this linear layout. We are going to talk more about the linear layout in the coming lessons. For now, let's focus more on this structure of the XML and on the text view. Now, this text view, in this text view, we don't have a separate closing tag because text view do not accept children. Text view do not accept children element. You notice that we have a bunch of additional text inside these text views. This is referred to as attributes. For example, a person has attributes brown hair, yellow eyes, and a car has attribute, for example, blue color or the brand name. So our text view has attributes width, height, text color, among many others. Looking now at the format of each line, we have attribute name on the left and the attribute value on the right. The attribute value should always be put in quotes, as you can see here. For example, our attribute value for our height is 100 dpi, 100 density independent pixel. The attributes which are not listed here maintain their default value. So if you are okay with the width, with the default value, you don't need to list them here. You should only write the attribute for which you want to change the default value. For example, the default color of a text view is usually gray, but we want it to be black, to be a black color. So that is why we have this line here. This line having text color equals to quote. This is the color code. Color code starts with #000. This is a color code for a black color. Also, something we have to note is that XML is case sensitive. So the tag name should clearly be written like this, with uppercase and lowercase character when necessary. This uses a camel case structure with uppercase for the text and uppercase for the view. So if the tag name and attribute, so if this view name is not well written, Android Studio will mark an error for this. But Android Studio makes it easy for us by helping us with the auto completion when we start writing. Now that we have gone through the syntax hole of XML, let's go to Android Studio to see how to write a text view and play with it. Here we are in Android Studio. This is our text view, and this is the preview for this text view. As you can see, the text value for this text view is username. The attribute name should always be on the right, and the value for this attribute is on the left, always in quotes. I can change this value to anything I want. For example, I can write a text like, how are you? And this is it, which displays on the preview. I can change this color to anything else. This color is black color. If I'm okay with the default value for the text color, I can just remove it. I can delete this, and the default color will be implemented. As you see, the color changed to gray. I can change the text size from 18 sp, for example, to 19 sp, or more than that. As you see, Android Studio makes it easy for us by providing us with values, but the recommended unit for text of text value is sp, so we will leave it to sp. We can change the width to make it more flexible. If you want our width to occupy the whole screen, we can put a special value called match parent. Sorry. As you match parent, you see how the size of our text view has increased to match the whole screen. So we can do so many things with this text view. We can play around. So just pause the video and play around with this text view, and let's continue in the next lesson. See you soon.